يا راغبا في كل علم نافع.
ينمو العلم ويتقدم بتقنياته ومجالاته، ومعه نطور أدواتنا في تقديم العلم الشرعي. أكاديمية
زاد أكاديمية ينبوعها صاف ليروي غلة الظمآن. وتعلم الفقه الميسر عاملا بالشرع دون تعصب لفلان. بشرى لنا زاد أكاديمية للعلم كالأزهار في البستان.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه. أما بعد, if you look around you, you will find that the whole world relies and depends entirely on riba, and it's the backbone of transactions nowadays, unfortunately, which shows you how far people are from Allah the Almighty and His Sharia and His rulings. And this way, what may cause some of the Muslims who have weak iman to doubt, why is riba haram? I could be rich. So many women who are either widowed or are divorced and have a lump sum of money, they say, it doesn't make sense. I could put my money in a time deposit and get a hefty percentage out of that every month and live on it without working. Why is it haram? Well, there are many reasons. As Muslims, we don't have to look into any of these reasons. What? Yeah. You'll find in your textbook so many reasons prohibiting riba. As Muslims, we don't need these reasons because we only rely and depend and follow the commands of Allah and the teachings of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's sufficient for me. But for non-Muslims, for Muslims who have weak iman and seek more elaboration, well, we can say to them, first of all, riba harms the poor and the needy because, and this we see with our own eyes, many poor people, when they have a need to pay debts or rent and they can't find the money, what do? They go for a quick fix. They borrow from the bank with interest. And they would be indebted for their whole life, enslaved to the bank. And the debt increases by time. So instead of being required to pay this much, next year they have to pay this much, the following year this much, and 5 years later they may just submit their home or whatever they have to the bank and still be in debt. And you can see the International Monetary Fund, is it? IMF, where they give loans with interest to countries, and these countries are indebted to them for the past 40 years. And the original loan was 1 billion, now they owe them 20 billion or 100 billions. And they said, yeah, this is business. No, this is riba, this is usury, this is haram. The moral system collapses when people deal with riba because they don't care whether you sell your kidney, whether you go into prostitution. I want my money in addition to the interest. And we know the infamous reputation of loan sharks and how they go with a baseball bat, breaking people's knees if they can't pay back the money. Islam does not have this. Riba teaches people to be lazy. because people are dependent on sitting on their backside and getting more and more money without the need to go to the market to make industries or factories or sell or produce anything. So they like this easygoing living and rising on the shoulders of the poor and on others. And this is why when riba spreads, the whole market collapses, because industries that borrowed with interest, if they fail, the whole industry falls. But the one who lent the money, the one who deals with riba, becomes richer, and all others become poorer. And it teaches people to consume other people's wealth, to devour their wealth unlawfully. I don't care whether you die or whether you do whatever you do. All what I care about is how and when I'm gonna get my money back. They say that dealing with riba makes the prices go up because those who produce and manufacture, when they borrow, they have to compensate the interest by raising the prices, which would burden the people more and more. And the spending power would be hugely reduced because people would suffer and they would not be able to buy when they're required to pay so much expenses on the loans they've got. So they have to reduce their buying power. And we've seen the problems caused by the credit crunch that took place in 2008, when foreclosures, millions of people lost their homes because they could not pay off their mortgages. Till date, we see people living in homes they thought it was fulfilling their American or European or Canadian dream through mortgages, which is haram, which is clear riba. And 10, 15 years down the line, when they're unable to pay, they take their homes and kick them out. And all what they've paid goes down the drain. This is not part of Islam. When you look at what the people say in the West, in non-Muslim countries, about the prohibition on riba, they admire the Islamic financial system. And there are so many people who say, wow, this is the system that we in the West should adopt. And there are so many quotes you will find in your text. I don't feel good about reading it, but you can go through it. It's very beneficial. And it tells you that non-Muslims, they themselves say that money does not give birth to money. Money does not produce money. And if banning the sale of money or wealth for wealth, this is the ideal solution to our crisis in the economy throughout the whole world. If we just manage to do this, we would be in way, way better hands and situation than we are today. What about dealing with banks? Because we have to deal with banks on a daily basis. Our savings are in banks. We make our payments through our banks. So we have to have bank accounts. So what is the ruling on the banks giving us money, interest, for whatever we deposited with them? The jurors say deposits with the banks are actually loans. Therefore, whatever the bank gives you in return for your deposits, it's riba. Now, a lot of people don't understand this. And I understand. They don't have knowledge. It's like a child who goes with his father to the doctor, and he says that your son has the appendix. We have to take it out. We have to extract it. We have to perform surgery. And the father tells his child that we will cut you open to take something that's harmful. The son doesn't understand. No way he will understand that you're going to cut me up with a knife and I'm going to bleed, and you expect me to understand? He's a child. He's ignorant. The vast majority of Muslims are like this, yet they want to understand and comprehend something that is way above their pay grade. That's why we have scholars. But in a simplified way, when I put my money in the bank does not keep it for safekeeping in a deposit box, untouched. That would have been a deposit. It's called amana. So if someone comes to me and says, Shaykh Asim, I'd like you to keep this $1,000 with you until I come back from my travel next month. Okay. If I take the money and I keep it in my safe, if anything happens to my house, if a robber breaks in and steals it, if the house is burnt to the ground and the money is burnt, when the person comes back a month later and demands his wealth, I say, Akhi, sorry, my house was burnt, or a thief broke into my home and stole your money and my money. The man has no right to demand his $1,000. Even if he goes to the police would say, Akhi, was this a loan? Or was it entrusted with him for safekeeping? This is the difference. He would say, no, it was entrusted with him. Said, there's no liability on him. When you go to the bank and give them $1,000 for deposit, they don't keep it for safekeeping. They put it with their other wealth and they use it. 80-90% of what they use it for is to lend it to other people with interest. So even if the whole branch is burnt to the ground, or bank robbers come and sweep it clean, when you come tomorrow and I say, give me my $1,000, they'll get it from elsewhere and say, here it is. They won't say, we're sorry, we were robbed, the bank was burnt. So they are liable because they guarantee that they will deliver it back, which means it is not entrusted with them. Rather, it is a loan. And this is why, if it was entrusted with them, if they are considering you a partner, you should be having your share of the profit when they make profit. But if they make losses, if they built a building or built a factory and it went broke and they lost, you will share the loss. When you deposit $1,000, you don't lose a penny. It always grows, which means it's a loan and they're giving you interest on it. And such interests are haram and riba. هذا والله أعلم ونسبة العلم إليه أسلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد.
يا راغبا في كل علم نافع
ينمو العلم ويتقدم بتقنياته ومجالاته، ومعه نطور أدواتنا في تقديم العلم الشرعي. أكاديمية
زاد أكاديمية ينبوعها صاف ليروي غلة الظمآن، وتعلم الفقه الميسر عاملا بالشرع دون تعصب لفلان. بشرى لنا زاد أكاديمية للعلم كالأزهار في البستان.